husband and I buy our first home, and we go to church together. Our kids play together. So we started going to baseball games together a little bit, so we know each other really well. But Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit about just the area that you cover? I know you work with your husband, that sort of thing.
So I work and live in Alamance County and do the surrounding areas. So Gibsonville, Mebane, Hillsborough, Whitsett, Greensboro, Burlington is kind of that bedroom community. So we get a lot of clients, working to travel to the east and west of us to the Triad and the Triangle. So I kind of cover it all.
Okay, yeah, and for those of you who don't know, this is our North Carolina chapter interview. So we have somebody in Virginia as well that we interviewed. So check that one out if you haven't already. And you just won an award too, right?
Yeah, so in 2021, I qualified with Coldwell Banker Advantage as awards in the International President's Circle. So it put me in the top 10 of Coldwell Banker agents internationally.
Awesome.
Pretty exciting. I've been an agent since 2009, so I'm in my 14th year.
Very cool. And I know you work with your husband too, who's also a realtor, and he's a home inspector. So you guys are you're the dynamic duo. All right, so let's get started. First question is very broad, and a lot of these questions may sound like they're geared toward first-time buyers and sellers, but hopefully, even if you're a fifth-time buyer or seller, some of this information will help you. But
sure.
What advice would you give people right now who are reluctant to buy or sell in the current market? I know that people are a little bit afraid they're hearing about the rising cost of homes and that sort of thing.
We've currently been in a seller's market, which typically with supply and demand, there's not enough supply to furnish all the buyers that are in the market. So, but I've always told people that if you're renting, you're buying a home for someone. So why not buy it for yourself? When you're paying rent, you're just allowing your landlord to either pay off the home that you're living in or pay off maybe a beach house or a vacation house. So if you can qualify, speak with a lender and buy your own home instead of theirs.
Got it. How should a first-time buyer determine that they are ready to buy their first home versus continuing to rent? So what qualities in themselves should they look for to know they're ready to take that first step?
I think a budget is important. When you're paying rent, sometimes everything is all inclusive. You're getting your utilities in with your rent, but just kind of look at a budget. And then also, I like to ask people, what kind of time frame they're going to be in their home. If you're not going to be in the home long enough to build up equity to be able to sell it in a short amount of time, then sometimes it is better to just kind of stay where you're at. With the seller's market that we've been in, it's very unusual, in a stable market for a buyer to buy a home and then be able to sell it a year later and make money. If you can break even, that's still a benefit because you were able to deduct that mortgage interest.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about
about
equity later too. So that's a big word that everybody needs to know when thinking about buying a home. With concern about the current inflation and the federal interest rate increase, how should buyers, and you can talk about buyers, sellers, or just current homeowners, how should they expect to be affected?
So your interest rate affects your monthly payments and interest in your mortgage, and so if you've had an increase in your interest, if you haven't purchased yet, you just want to make sure that you check with your lender to see where that's going to make your payment fall and if it's still within your budget. I've had a couple buyers recently that we've been looking for about 3 to 4 months, and with the increase in interest, it dropped their purchasing power from about $300,000 down to about $275,000. So, we can't go look at $300,000 houses anymore because it affected, what their budget and what they were comfortable with having that monthly mortgage payment to be. So that's the biggest thing, is how it, sellers aren't too affected by it because they're already in the home, but it's something to consider that, if they're currently in a home at, say, a $300,000 value with a 3% interest rate because they've been in the home for several years, if they sell that home and then still go buy another $300,000 home at a 5% interest rate, then their payment is actually going to go up even though they went unilaterally in purchase price from what they sold and what they purchased. So something to definitely consider if you're thinking about cashing out on equity that you've built up. You may be spending the same amount of money but not getting as much house or having actually a higher interest rate.
Right.
So
Sounds tricky.
things to consider.
That's
Yes.
why you need a realtor to help you out.
To make sure you consider all the boxes and
Right, yeah, little nuances there. Okay, so this is definitely a question for regarding, I guess, first-time buyers, but is a down payment something that is always required when you buy a home? And if so, how much should someone plan to pay?
So to answer the first question, no. It just depends on the loan program. So USDA is rural development areas. They have a 100% financing program. You just have to qualify as the buyer. There are income limits. If you make too much money, then you won't qualify for the 100%. And then also VA, our veterans are eligible for a 100% loan. And then a lot of credit unions have a 100% loan program. So neither of those require a down payment. But then if you are getting a loan like FHA or conventional, it ranges anywhere from 3% up. So common down payment amounts are 5, 10, or 20% down, depending on the length of how long you want to pay the loan off. Most people do a 30-year fixed loan, but sometimes people will do 15 as well. So
okay, and I know I've heard that 20%.
All the numbers, Dan.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
you may not want to put 20% down if you don't have the extra cash, but obviously the more you put down, the lesser your payment will be. So.
Right, yeah, make that monthly payment hurt a little bit less, right? All right, so let's talk about getting your home ready to sell. What are some points that are good to focus on, things that we get a little gnat flying around here. Things that buyers might be looking for, things that might deter a buyer from buying a home. What are some things to highlight?
It's something so simple, but first impressions are that mean so much. If there's fresh mulch or flowers or hanging baskets on the porch, it just kind of gives that welcoming feel. The bigger ticket items that people sometimes are attracted to as well are roof or an HVAC system, because once you get in there, those are things that last a good while, so you wouldn't have to worry about spending a lot of or thousands of dollars shortly after moving in.
Right.
Depending on, and that's another question that you can always ask your real estate agent: is it worth me putting a new roof on? If it's going to cost me $10,000, am I really going to be able to change the value of your home by $10,000? And so it just depends on pricing in the market that we're in. So if none of your neighbors have a new roof and you're all listed at the same price, then buyers will be attracted to your home having a new roof. But in a seller's market, sometimes sellers can get away with not having to do as much to get it ready to sell, because there are plenty of buyers that want your house.
Right. So I've heard. So you mentioned equity before. So what is home equity, and why is it important to know about and to try to build?
Sure. So equity is the money that you've built up in the value of your home. So if your home value is currently at, say, $300,000, and the balance on your loan is only $200,000, then you've gained $100,000 in equity. You've either paid it down over time, or if you were to sell, you would be able to cash out on that equity. But just little things like the improvements in roof and HVAC and things like that will add to the value of your home.
And that's something you only have if you're a homeowner. Obviously, you don't build that if you're a renter.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay, so, and I've mentioned before, so the house I'm currently living in, one mistake that we made is we didn't go by the house and listen to the noise level in the neighborhood at several different times of the day, because, that can be variable. So what are some other common mistakes that you've seen buyers make, maybe things they didn't think of to look at or to consider before buying a home?
I think it's always important to get a home inspection. A home inspector will give a good overall view of the home. He's looking at the HVAC system, which is both the heating and cooling system. He's looking at the roof. He's looking in the attic and the crawl space. And sometimes as buyers are, gathering up their down payment money and their closing cost money, they don't want to spend an extra $500 on a home inspection, but it's so important for you to see, every little in and out of the home. Buyers are walking through to make sure it has the bedroom and bathroom count that they need, but it also, you want to make sure about the systems in the home as well. So just little.
And if you work with the Kindleys, a home inspector comes with the package, right?
Yeah.
All right, so what are some questions that you wish buyers and sellers would think to ask their realtor? What are some things that maybe you've seen people overlook, or maybe they go in with an idea in their head of how they want things, and they're not open to suggestions or
right.
answers.
I think the length of time that they plan to be in the home, also just getting it, the maintenance of how well the previous owner took care of it. As you're walking through, if the air filters don't look like they've ever been changed, or just cleanliness, those things like that, it goes a long way with the actual maintenance and how well a seller has taken care of it. So a buyer sometimes wants to take extra look at that stuff, and
those little details that a lot of us wouldn't think of, probably.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, that's a big one. I mean, that's helpful. Okay, well, we try to keep these interviews at about 10 minutes, and we're at the end, but is there anything you'd like to add, any information you want to get out there to the public that everybody might need to know?
I know I mentioned closing cost in one of my things when the buyer was trying to budget, and closing cost usually it's all of the fees that are associated with you buying the house. So some of the fees are going to be from the attorney that works closely with your lender to do a title search and getting the loan documents together. Your lender typically has a fee for doing the loan. In your monthly payment, you often will be paying your taxes to the local municipality or the county that you live in, and your homeowner's insurance. So you're going to have a kind of a escrow account where a little bit of your taxes and insurance goes into an account every month, so that when those bills come due, your bank will pay those for you. Any home inspection, the appraisal, so all of those things often get thrown into what we call closing costs. So that's the fees on top of your down payment.
Mm-hmm. So that number you see that, when you're looking at houses online, that's not the flat rate, right?
Right.
Yeah,
so if you were buying a $100,000 house, the seller is going to get the $100,000 portion, but then the lender to do your loan may have, and the attorney and the closing costs and the appraisal may cost, $5,000. So you're going to need your down payment for whatever loan program you're doing, plus the $5,000 closing cost to actually purchase the house. So, and a lot of times the closing costs cannot be lumped in with your loan. So those are usually what we call out-of-pocket costs.
Okay, yeah, good things to know. All right, this has been some awesome information from Sarah Kindley of Coldwell Banker Advantage. I thank you guys so much for continuing to follow us and watch our videos. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. We'll put contact information for ourselves and for Sarah, if she's okay with it, with these posts. So feel free to reach out if you have any more questions. I hope this is getting the wheels turning and you thinking about starting your journey with buying or selling a home. But we'll catch you guys later, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.